All right, let's talk some Guardians,
Yeah.
Bull. Over the weekend, Luis Robert Jr., the all-star center fielder for the Chicago White Sox, was kind of put on the trading block. It said Chicago was willing to listen to offers for their young, I'm not sure he's a superstar, but he's definitely a star. He was an all-star in 2023. Won a Silver Slugger at center field. Bleacher Report and a few other baseball entities put out lists of potential landing spots for Luis Robert Jr., and the Guardians were highly ranked on a couple of them. Bull, I'll start with you because I think you don't think there's a possibility this could happen, but is there a possibility Luis Robert Jr. could be on the Guardians trade deadline wish list this year? And if he is, would he make sense, and do they have enough assets to acquire him?
For a variety of reasons, trading for Luis Robert Jr. makes no sense for the Guardians. I shouldn't say it makes no sense.
Yeah,
it's just not realistic.
All right, tell me why.
It's not realistic for a variety of reasons.
Isn't they in our
First
division?
of all, there is still something to be said that I don't want to trade. If I'm the White Sox, there's a lot of teams I could trade him to. I don't want to trade him in the division.
I'm going to tell you why I disagree with that when you're done.
Okay, fine. Number two, the guy is very talented. He's under team control at a reasonable rate, which means the White Sox are going to want a boatload.
Yes.
They're going to want even more because it's a division team. There's a kicker that you have to do for that. But he's also extremely injury prone.
Yes.
He's played 100 games once in his career. That's it.
And he had
so
a
I'm going to
great
give up a
season,
ton
too.
of stuff to get a guy who I don't know if he can make it through the season. I know baseball, you never know. But this guy has a long track record, as do a lot of the young White Sox players, for whatever reason, of injury. So, yes, in a perfect world, if I could get him, sure, he's a tremendous talent. He'd be a good fit in the lineup. But what I would have to give up to get him, combined with his injury-prone status, I think it's an extreme long shot, and I can't see any way it happens.
I can't disagree with you on that. The injuries actually don't concern me. Yeah, he is hurt all the time.
Yeah.
I want him healthy in October. They're going to the playoffs. Guardians are going to the playoffs.
Fair, but
so I want him healthy.
I don't know
in
that he will
October.
be.
Well, but you manage him now. And I also wonder, and I don't know the White Sox well enough. Maybe they've already done this. But what's going on with their medical staff? Because they constantly have guys getting
Eloy
hurt.
Jimenez always hurt.
Constant.
Moncada's been hurt.
Hamstrings, soft tissue, a ton of soft tissue injuries. Like, what's going on over there?
Yeah.
But the whole division thing in this instance, I think, is silly. And I agree with you. Teams rarely trade within the division.
Yeah.
I think the last time, off memory, the White Sox and Guardians/Indians made a trade was Roberto Hernandez in, 1997. I can't think of a trade since then. This is why it's dumb to not trade him here because of that. He's under contract. We talked about it on the call. 27, Mike?
Through 27.
All right, he's under contract through 27. Are the White Sox going to do anything within the division between now and 2027? No.
They might.
No, they're horrendous.
They probably not.
Horrendous.
They
But
are.
teams
But
get a little uptight
Okay,
about that.
fine. But you know, Luis Robert's not going to be in Cleveland beyond 2027, and they're
That's
probably
true.
going to trade him in 2026.
That's fair.
So what are we doing here?
No.
If the Guardians give you the best package, send him in the division because he's going to be gone in 2 years anyway.
All fair, but in the end,
they might pay up.
In the end,
come on,
it's worth it.
I can't imagine the Guardians will give him the clear best package, and if it's close, then you'd rather trade him.
I just think the whole in this instance. I think it's dumb. Like, if you're in the East and you're trading to the Yankees, okay, fine, I get it. Because they're going to sign the guy and you're going to have to see him for the next 15 years.
Right.
In this instance, it doesn't apply. He's going to be gone in 2 years anyway, and you're going to suck for the next 2 years. So who cares?
But you got to see him. That's,
Teams are uptight a little bit about that. It shouldn't
They
matter.
are.
But teams get a little weird about that.
I agree with you.
It was even when the White Sox traded Jose Quintana to the Cubs, it was like, they were hesitant to do it because they're cross-town rivals.
Right.
And the Cubs already get all the hype in the town anyway. So it's a little weird. Listen, would I love to have Luis Robert in a perfect world or Garrett Crochet? Yeah, but those guys are going to cost
I need to know what it cost. What would it take to get him? What do you think?
You'd have to trade the Lauder.
He just went on the IL again, by the way.
Yeah, he did. But the White Sox don't care about that. I mean,
they got time. They're not going nowhere this year, so it doesn't matter.
You would have to trade them probably 3 of your top 6 or 7 prospects, if not more.
Teams like the White Sox and the Angels have terrible farm systems.
Yes.
So they want farm.
And so I actually think that they would want quantity over quality, where you give them your 3rd, 4th, 8th, 10th.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
but the Lauder's
maybe
number one.
fine. But I was saying 3 of your top 10 prospects.
Yes. Where they're trying to restock their entire system.
Right.
rather than put all their eggs in one basket. Given the hit rate on prospects,
what is our
you're
farm?
better off diversifying your
Guardians
portfolio.
right now are more middle of the road.
In the farm system?
They're middle of the road. They've lost some status.
They went from like...
And that's an interesting point because, I mean, Bybee has hit. That's a hit. I know he's a little bit taking a half a step back probably this year, but he's a hit. Gavin Williams
I don't think he'll win the Cy Young.
I didn't say he'd win it. He just has to catch a vote, just one vote. I'm going to make sure I break into the system and
right
give him
now,
a vote.
Ben Lively would get a vote over
I
him.
know, it's insane.
Yeah, Stephen Kwan's a hit in recent
Kwan
years.
is a hit.
Yeah.
So they've lost a couple of guys,
Yeah.
but a lot of their guys that were top prospects have kind of regressed a little. When you like Roquio,
down
Arias,
26
George
and a half games.
Yeah, Valera has gone down the tubes.
it's
Espino. Here's the tricky thing right now, okay? You used to, and Zach and I were talking about this in the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian show, because he brought up the Bartolo Colon trade, which happened with the Expos in June. You may remember, and I brought this up, 30 years ago, Thursday is the 30th anniversary of the Indians trading Rick Sutcliffe to the Cubs in June.
Wow.
Remember that trade?
Yeah.
For Joe Carter and Mel Hall.
Yeah.
Cubs got Ron Hassey in that deal also.
Yep.
You used to see a lot of blockbuster baseball trades in June. The reason you don't see it as often now is because there's so many teams in the mix. In 1984, there were 2 teams that made the playoffs in each league.
Right.
So there were plenty of teams that were way out of it and buried by the middle of June. Now, 25 of the 30 teams are still in the mix.
Yeah.
And the teams that are out of it at this point are so bad they don't have that much to trade. The only teams that are, like Toronto's gotten hot. Cincinnati, all of a sudden the schedule looks a lot tougher because Cincinnati and Toronto have both gotten hot lately.
They have won
and they're playing better.
in
Cincinnati's won, I think, 12 of their last 15 games. Toronto's won a bunch in a row. So now all of a sudden, well, Toronto's not trading anybody. There's 5 teams that are completely out of it. That's it. Colorado, Miami, the Angels, the A's, and the White Sox. That's it. The Mets are 8 games under 500, but they're, I think, 3 games out of a wild card spot.
Yeah.
Because everybody outside of the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Braves, and surprisingly the Brewers is mediocre in the National League. So it's hard. I mean, when you and so, you know, the White Sox have a couple of guys like Crochet and Robert we're talking about. Oakland's got very little to offer. They got some back-end starters. They might trade their closer, Mason Miller, but it would cost a ton to get him. I mean, what the hell does Colorado have? Who are they trading?
Chris Bryant.
Nobody's taking his contract. He's been a disaster. The Marlins' whole pitching staff is hurt except for Luzardo, but he got smoked in his last start. I'll tell you what, Cal Quantrill's pitched he's been their best starter.
I think he on the mound today for now.
That's not a bad one. Cal Quantrill, they might
You
trade
take him back in Cleveland?
I mean, I think
Yes.
I would too.
yes, you know what?
I would too.
Honestly, he's pitched better than he's
Carrasco, I'll take him back
especially
over.
considering he's pitching in Colorado. He's done a hell of a job.
Yeah.
And then who am I forgetting? The Angels. I brought this up to Zach. They got a pitcher, Tyler Anderson, who's been phenomenal.
Yeah.
But the peripherals are not good.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't strike anybody out. So, like, what are you giving up for him?
Right.
And what else do the Angels have to trade? Now, there's some interesting relief pitchers on all these teams. And the Guardians may, at a point, say, you know, let's just even bolster a strength.
You can always use a
Can you
reliever.
imagine
Always use a reliever.
if you acquired, I brought this up to Zach, can you imagine if the Guardians acquired, now, most of our fans probably don't know much about him, but Mason Miller is a young closer on the A's who throws 102 miles an hour.
Incredible.
They can't touch him.
All right? Now, you'd have to give him a lot to get him, like you did for Andrew Miller. But if you added him to an already good bullpen, forget about it. If you had him in Class A,
You're shortening the game to realistically 6 or 7 innings.
and in the playoffs it's 6.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
That's what I'm talking about.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
playoffs at 6 innings. I mean,
Yeah.
you could get 3 innings between those guys
Yeah.
in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So the reason the Guardians have done as well as they have, even though their pitching's not been very good, their starting pitching, is because they don't need their starting pitching right now to be great. They just need it to be okay. But once you're playing the best of the best in the playoffs, you're going to need better than that. So whether that's they have to add a starter, but I think doubling down on what's already an excellent bullpen would make a lot of sense too.
And while we're talking pitching and Guardians, it's worth mentioning. I just saw it that Gavin Williams is not listed
That's right.
as a Columbus starter. You guys talked about it on the show, I guess,
Yeah.
today.
Zach,
I don't know what to make of it at this point. When
Right.
When you're on an injury assignment and all of a sudden you don't show up. Is that good or bad?
I know. My
He
first
only
reaction.
threw 50 pitches his last start, which was his pitch limit, by the way. So it's not like he's
He's
at
not
least in my
stretched
mind, I
out.
feel like he's not stretched out enough to
They
be ready
could
to
call
make
him
the
up
major.
with that and just have him throw 70
innings.
pitches or
3
65
innings. Yeah.
pitches, whatever. Zach, my first reaction was, he had a setback.
Right.
Zach was like, well, maybe they're going to call him up. But the Guardians have so many days off. They're in a stretch with a lot of days off that they don't need a fourth starter for like 2 weeks. I mean, a fifth starter for 2 weeks. Now, Ben Lively, we don't know what his status is right now.
Right.
So who knows? Maybe they are going to bring him back. But
Did I see he rejoined them in Cincinnati? That's actually a good sign.
Yes, that was a good sign.
That's a really good sign. Because Jay and I yesterday were like, oh, man,
Right.
here we go
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
And I even said, like, at no point do you ever go visit the doctor and they're like, yeah, you're good. Like, we'll see you Tuesday.
Right, right.
And that may have been
Yeah,
to say that probably.
Let me ask you this, Bull.
You just had a scare.
And then
You're
move
good.
Because we got a little bit of breaking news at a Browns camp I want to get to in a sec.
Yeah.
But if it's Luis Robert, if it's Bo Bichette, and/or it's a starter reliever, those are your 4 options. Rank those in terms of what you think the Guardians should most prioritize.
Say again, I'm
at the
sorry.
trade deadline.
I have ADD.
Bo Bichette,
Luis Robert
Luis
Jr., who we're
Robert.
talking about.
Yep.
Bo Bichette, who we've spoken about in the past. A middle-of-the-line
I mean,
starter.
you have to
bullpen
get
guy?
specifics at pitcher. Let's say Jesus Luzardo and Mason Miller. I mean,
Sure. For the sake of this, those are the 4 guys.
Yeah,
How would you
yeah,
rank?
yeah.
Where does Luis Robert Jr. fall in the pecking order for you?
I would actually take Bichette 1. I know he's not having a great year. I would take Bichette 1.
I think
and Mason Miller 2.
even though Luzardo had a terrible start last time, I would actually take Luzardo 1, then Bichette, then Robert would be last for me.
Yeah, I agree. Because, I mean, I think they need an outfielder, but I don't think it's their most pressing need.
No, they need a shortstop more than an outfielder.
Yes.
I think they need a pitcher. They need to upgrade their pitching more than anything else. But right now, I don't think Bichette's
Mike
going to
said
get
a
traded.
mid-tier pitcher, though, and I think Luzardo's better than a mid-tier
Well,
pitcher.
he is. Yeah, I mean, if it's a mid-tier pitcher, then I'm with you.
Yeah.
Then I'm going Bichette. But I don't think Bichette. Right now, it doesn't look like Bichette's going to get traded.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike. What do we got? Breaking news?
All right, we do got a